Now we are going to have the Q&A section, but then maybe I should invite Professor Wah and Professor Meng to the stage first. Is there any question for? Yes.
Thank you. There's a language issue that worries a lot of us in the Chinese studies field. Since most of the paperwork are in English only, and especially most of us doing classical Chinese studies or even historical studies, many great scholars in these fields are in mainland China, and many of them do not know any English. So in recommending reviewers, would maybe put in a disadvantage because when those scholars receive any such review request, they won't read English, and so they won't contribute, I suppose? Or would that be particular policies regarding Chinese and English in the application process?
Let me first answer this question, and then I'll defer to Professor Meng to supplement. We do not, in terms of the language of the proposal, we do not discriminate in terms of the language. If it is predominantly citations in Chinese, we would send the proposal to qualified reviewers who would understand the proposal. There are numerous reviewers in our database who can understand both English and Chinese. So as a result, do not be concerned that there would not be any reviewers that can understand your proposal in terms of both English and Chinese citations. There are numerous reviewers who are qualified to do that.
Yes, I'd like to also underscore that point. We actually make an earnest effort in ensuring that every proposal is reviewed by multiple reviewers. And so if, in fact, we send out the proposal to a whole group, a batch of reviewers, not all of them may accept the invitation to review. But for those who accept, or if we find that there are insufficient acceptances, then we will invite some more. So therefore, every proposal is reviewed by a sufficient number of reviewers. Thank you for the question.
Any other questions? Yes, over there.
Hi. I would like to know more about the start date of the project if I'm got funded by the RGC, because I'm thinking to apply to other funding source like the Public Policy Research Fund of the CPU, and it stipulates that I cannot hold 2 or more projects that offer teaching relief. So I wonder if I can apply to 2 funding sources and then to plan ahead for my research schedule. Thank you.
The date for the announcement of the result would be in early September. The panel meeting would be around in the 3rd week of August, and we will try to announce the results as early as possible and before September. The reason is that we stipulate that the PIs should have at least 1 year of contract to work on the research proposed. And in some of the self-financing degree institutions, in order for the staff to continue for a new contract, you have to demonstrate that you have a proposal funded. So therefore, we try everything possible to make the announcement before the semester begins. As far as the release time is concerned, for the self-financing, the proposals that under this scheme, you can actually have multiple proposals that would allow you to have release times together. But however, the sum of the total release time cannot be more than 50%. You can have at most 50% of the release time. And also the cost of the relief teacher cannot be more expensive than your salary. That is, again, another requirement in the proposal. In terms of the public policy research, whether they would give release time, I don't think there is any requirement on overlaps, meaning that you can have, as far as I know, are there any requirements in terms of public policy research? That is not an RGC, but more a CPU PPR research. I don't know whether the requirements are there that there cannot be any overlap in terms of release time, relief time. There is? Then in that case, you have to follow what is over there. But we don't have any requirements as far as RGC is concerned. Yeah.
So I would like to know if I can, fortunately, if I get funded by RGC, can I kind of postpone the start date of the research if I got funded by the CPU through the PPR funding scheme?
You have to apply through the RGC to defer the starting date. Normally, we can honor a deferral of 1 semester to the beginning of the next semester if there are good reasons for doing that. But you cannot defer that for 1 year or 2 years until you finish the other PPR research.
Thank you very much. Our team has just newly developed an intervention, but we are thinking whether we adopted the RCT randomized control trial or the quasi experimental study. Why we ask this question? Because it's too early for us to adopt the randomized control trial for newly developed intervention. So that's why we think about the quasi experimental study. So I'm not sure that whether in that case, it is likely, it's possible to apply some studies. They are not the RCT. Is it the successful rate? Not successful rate. Is it possible the opportunities for funder or not? Thank you.
I'll try to answer to the best of my understanding. So you're trying to consider between 2 approaches for an intervention strategy. One is a randomized control trial, and the other is a cross-group investigation or comparison, right? So, and then you are also uncertain whether you are able to do a randomized control trial for some reason. Is that correct?
And the reason for we don't pick the RCT, the reason for us not considering the RCT because the intervention just newly developed through the ASHRAEAM research. It seems to us that it's very early to adopt the RCT.
I see. So in a proposal, if you try to put yourself in the shoes of a reviewer, right? And then here you are trying to submit a proposal that says, I'm trying to investigate the efficacy of a new intervention strategy, and I'm using a cross-group comparison. Then, of course, it's natural for the reviewer to think, well, why aren't they using a randomized control trial, right? So I think one of the possible ways to address your concern is to say you have considered, or you are also considering the, both approaches, but you would favor one over the other because of a certain reason. I think that is good to bring out that you have considered it, and there are reasons why you want to go this rather than that way.
Oh, that's a very good idea. Yeah, I know what we have to do. Thank you very much.
Well, that's my personal recommendation.
I know that there's no guarantee, but that yours is a very good idea for us to explain why we don't take an RCT instead of the quasi-experimental study.
Yeah, I think in general, I mean, I'm probably not in your field, but I think if you try to put yourself in the shoes of a reviewer, the reviewer is looking at a proposal to see if the PI has looked at the problem from a 360-degree angle in a very comprehensive way and look at it clearly and then pick the best path of attack, right, to solve that problem. So I think you need to demonstrate that. That's the bottom line. Exactly how you want to express that, it's really of personal choice.
Thank you very much. I strongly agree with your point. Thank you.
There's another question over there.
Okay, I would like to know the upper limit of the COI for the FDAs.
There is actually no limit in terms of the number of COIs. The COIs can be from the local UGC-funded institutions, self-financing institutions, overseas institutions. But of course, there are some practical limits that it cannot be too many because they are supposed to be working together with you, and they have to be working in relevant areas. So don't just put the COIs there because of the name, but that they are actually helping your research and be supportive of your research.
Another question.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would like to ask if a proposal was rejected at the first time, when the second submission, will this proposal enjoy the equal chance of getting the fund? This is the first question. And the second question is, will the proposal be reviewed by the same panels as the first one that being reviewed? So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for the question. So I alluded to that point earlier. I think what you should consider is if you're resubmitting a proposal in the following year, after you've gotten the comments from your reviewers, you must ensure that you have made a genuine effort to address adequately any concerns about the previous submission before you resubmit. Because if there are unaddressed issues, then because basically in the review process, we see that this is a resubmission, and then people see, oh, so why was it not funded in the first place, in the previous year? And now you're resubmitting it. Are the concerns addressed? Right? If they're adequately addressed, from what I've seen, actually the comments actually help the preparation of the resubmission. Okay? So as far as whether it's the same set of people, exactly the same set of people who will be reviewing this resubmission, that is not guaranteed, because every exercise follows strictly the process that I talked about. We have to invite external reviewers, and then the readers have to come up with, have to review the reviewers' comments, and the readers come up with some recommendations, and then the assessment panel will discuss all these opinions together in a face-to-face meeting. Now, you have to understand that for practical reasons, not all, may not have the same exact set of people who agree to an invitation year after year, right? So, and also there are various reasons, certain, we're talking about the external reviewers, and then we talk about the readers, right? Multiple readers are assigned to handle a proposal. And when we try to invite readers, maybe there can be a reader who agrees to serve 1 year, but for various reasons may not serve the next year. So it's hard to guarantee that the same set of people will be following through the resubmission through the entire process. But by and large, it will be a fair review process.
Sorry, past the questions. Can we submit proposal again after more than 1 year? For example, the first time I submitted, the second year I didn't. And after maybe I did a lot of work and then I resubmit again on the third year. Is it possible?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So the good thing about that is if you actually have done some groundwork, you build up your track record, and you should try to put that into your new submission. Yeah, thank you.
I see that on the RGC website, there is a new point, to my understanding, there is a new point on the call for proposal, which says that collaboration is strongly encouraged. I wonder how this point will be implemented in the assessment process.
Well, I think that we strongly encourage collaborations, and as mentioned in the briefing today, that finding good collaborators, the collaborators can be a co-I, can be a friend that you know who work in the same area. Collaborators actually could help you in refining your proposal and so on. Also, I think that sharing of equipment, sharing of infrastructure is also strongly encouraged, meaning that, like, we know that sometimes if you want to buy an expensive piece of equipment, and that if you put up a large proposal with a large budget, that the chance of getting it funded may not be high, because if it is over $1 million, you have to justify, especially for on the budget. So sharing of equipment with other institutions, with UGC-funded institutions or self-financing institutions, sharing of software, sharing of resources are also encouraged.
Is there any questions? Maybe not only on FDS, and questions on IDS are also welcomed.
Let me mention something about
Yeah.
the IDS. I think the IDS is, because that every institution can submit one IDS proposal each year. And as discussed by Professor Lim, it is really, it is important for you to package the IDS in the right way. We have seen proposals that are not successful, that were not successful before, simply because they don't have coherent theme, or they just put together a bunch of FDS proposals and staple them together. And the topics all look like random topics. So in that case, it is not going to fare well, because in that case, we would encourage the institution to submit individual FDS proposals rather than putting multiple FDS proposals into a single IDS proposal. So it is important that when you submit IDS proposals, develop a good theme. And as Professor Lim mentioned, there could be 2 prompts. You can have 3 prompts or 4 prompts, but the fact is that they should all be related, meaning that the different topics should be related. You can propose infrastructure to support the theme. You can propose you can propose a research lab with multiple topics that are complementary to each other. And those are all good ideas to think about how to develop an appealing proposal for the IDS.
Yes. Oh, maybe this is the last question. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, it's you.
So my question is about industrial collaboration. So
Yeah.
if a proposal can get some industrial support, some company to support, this support, is it only in money term or in kind, or some kind of other advice to the investigators?
I think the support, we are open to any support, meaning that it is not mandatory that you have industrial support. I think that the industrial support should actually be, if you put it over there, it should show that it is useful and helpful for your research. Don't just put it there for the sake of having some industrial support. That it means that your work would span for example, like an application component, we have an app component that you can actually work with the industry to transfer the technologies. We welcome both theoretical research as well as application-oriented research. So any additional support that you put over there must have a good reason. So you need to demonstrate why it would be helpful for your research. Don't just put it there for the sake of putting it there.
Just follow up on this. If there is any invention coming out, then what about IP issues?
We do not, RGC does not claim any of the IPs. Actually, you have to work with your institution. Most institutions have their own IP policy, meaning that if you invent an IP while you're working for the institution, the IP would be shared between you and the institution. Yes.
So may I?
Yes, sure.
I just want to provide a kind reminder. In fact, these schemes for the self-funded sector has very generous teaching relief provisions. So when you submit proposals, please remember to ask for it. I mean, from what I see, it's much, much more generous compared with the with the GRFs. It's up to 2 courses, up to 50% of the PI's, teaching load. So do remember, to consider that.
Let me mention one, because there was a question raised about collaborations. I think in the schemes for the self-financing degree institutions, they are different from the normal RGC schemes. In the RGC schemes, there are collaborative research funds, theme-based research, AOE, and so on, that are large-scale collaborations that you can involve multiple PIs, co-Is, co-principal investigators in working together, and they can all share the funding. In the schemes for the self-financing degree institutions, the collaborations are somewhat limited because, like, normally you have only either an FDS, IDS. In the IDS, it's all restricted to one institution, and therefore collaborations must be within that institution, and you cannot share money with another institution. For the FES, it's more individual research. You can involve co-Is, and normally the co-Is will not get any additional funding. So therefore, this is somewhat different from the normal RGC schemes where there are large-scale collaborative research funds available.
So maybe this is the end of our workshops. And thank you once again for everyone to come, and especially to Professor Wah and Professor Man, and also the speakers. And I hope you all enjoyed this evening, and we think that it is a fruitful exchange of ideas. And lastly, we have distributed a questionnaire to you during the registration. Maybe it's feedback to us, and so just a few minutes, and then you can fill it out and then place it in the questionnaire collection box. Thank you very much.